Thank you all for coming this morning. I'm happy to see so many bright, cheerful, awake faces. Hopefully we'll stay that way. I want to thank Dr. Kvenild for the invitation to come, and Dr. Correa also. Thank you both very much. As I've told Dr. Correa this morning, it's snowing in Laramie, Wyoming at the university today. I'm very happy to be in Ponce. All right, I think I'll start the slides, so that's okay. So today we're here to talk about some standards for online library services. If there are two things I'm passionate about, they're distance education and libraries, and how those two can work together for the benefit of all of our students. Before we get started though, I want to invite you to have a conversation. I'm talking to you this morning, but I want to talk with you. Let's talk on Twitter. I'm CassK. Hashtag PEAFAL is great. And we can continue this conversation throughout the day. Tomorrow, if a question comes up, or an insight, or an idea, let's share it and talk about it. So Dr. Correa asked me to talk about standards for online library services. And today I'm going to structure that in this way. I'd like to talk about our shared beliefs as distance educators and librarians. We have a lot in common. I want to talk about some of the challenges that we face and some of the opportunities for us to partner together and to improve education for our students. So first I'd like to talk a little bit about our shared beliefs. And I realize that this is presumptuous. How do I know what everyone in this room believes? Well, we're all here, so I have a pretty good idea. But just in case, I spoke to people yesterday, I spoke to people this morning, I read some articles that you all have produced about distance learning in Puerto Rico. And I feel comfortable telling you what you already know. We believe in a commitment to student learning. Our students always come first. Does anyone disagree? Okay. We believe in distance education. We believe that it's powerful and useful. And I know from what I've learned about Puerto Rico that you all believe in high quality distance education. You don't believe in diploma mills. You don't believe in profit centers. You believe in getting students the education they need online. I'm very impressed by that. We believe in the value of libraries. No one here would be in this room without libraries, right? Yeah, libraries. When I went to school, the library looked a lot different than it does today. Sometimes I don't recognize it. But the value is still there, and I still could not do my work without it. My children could not be successful students without it. I could not be a successful teacher or researcher without my library. I know that. Finally, we believe in access to information for our students, for our instructors, for our researchers. Very important. Our students need to learn to access information in a way that makes them better learners, better citizens. Okay, are there any disagreements about the shared beliefs? Okay. I'm open to, discussion. So bearing this in mind, it occurred to me that we really have more in common than we have differences. As distance educators, as librarians, we have the same shared goals and beliefs. I want to talk a bit about the standards for how libraries interact with distance learning. The Association of College and Research Libraries has a beautiful document online, and I will provide a citation to it at the end of this presentation. And it's a lengthy document lots of detail, but it can be summarized very quickly. The standard for distance learning librarianship comes down to this: the access entitlement principle. It's a little long, I'm going to summarize it, but I'll put the whole thing up. Every student is entitled to library services regardless of where they're enrolled or where they're physically located. Every student is entitled to library services. Now, I know from talking to all of you that you are living this principle, that this is fully active in Puerto Rico. So congratulations, that's good. All of us have room for improvement. How can we improve our implementation of the access entitlement principle everywhere? I will start by telling an embarrassing story. Several years ago, at the University of Wyoming, I prepared a needs assessment of my distance faculty. I surveyed them to find out how I was doing, how the libraries were doing, if we were meeting their needs. These faculty members were my friends, my colleagues. We had a great relationship. I felt certain that these survey results would come back and say, "Great job, nothing to fix, no way to improve." Well, that's kind of happened. I also got this comment. Wow, all right. So, to my knowledge, I have no access to library services. I wasn't expecting that. And it gets worse. If I did, I'd probably do something. Oh. That wasn't a great day. And I'll be honest, I tried to blame it on the faculty member first. I thought, wow, he's not one of us. Whoever wrote this isn't one of us. This person doesn't believe in student learning and distance education and the value of libraries. And then I had to think about it. This person opened my email, opened the survey, completed it, and provided thoughtful feedback, so I had to take it seriously. All of us have room to improve the connection between the libraries and our distance education programs, even if you think you're doing really well. So some people look at this comment and think, well, this is a marketing problem. I just need to buy a Facebook ad about the library or do a better job with PR or send an email to everybody. There's some truth there, but I believe it's very important to build the foundations of distance library services before you have anything to market. What does that look like? The first opportunity I want to talk about are our collections. How many of you recognize the photograph here? Print books on a shelf. Yeah, I feel very comfortable with those. They're not a great deal of use to distance learners. I mail books to distance learners in Wyoming, but that is only one small part of what we can do. Of course, we can have electronic books, electronic journals, all very useful. And I've talked to librarians this morning. I know that you have a database buying program in Puerto Rico that provides really good access to articles for your students. And I know that you also buy some of the ebook packages. And those are great practices for distance learners. I will, however, say there's always room for improvement. And one thing I've seen at many universities is a login problem. When your distance learner gets ready to work on a research project, do they have to log into Blackboard, log into email, log into the library, log into the ebook package? Does that sound familiar? It's very important that as a group we streamline access for our students. No one wants to get caught in a login circle like that. And honestly, if I were a student, well, I might stop logging in after about the third one. We also can utilize document delivery, interlibrary loan for our distance learners, very powerful tools. This is for the faculty members out here. How many people are faculty members, instructors? Okay. How many people are librarians? Wonderful. Okay, you're all in a cluster. I thought that might happen. Okay, so the durable links, this is a method to provide access to library articles in your Blackboard course without violating copyright law. If you don't know how to make one, ask your librarian. That's just a little gift. Streaming video is a very powerful collection opportunity for distance learners. Librarians, how many of you have streaming video collections? Well, a few. All right, the innovators are over at that table, I see you. Or maybe the most persistent. Streaming video is not the easiest thing to collect, but it really serves the needs of our students who cannot all be present in one room to watch a DVD at the same time, right? That model's dead. Okay, so the first opportunity, collections. I'm now going to share with you another comment from a faculty member. I take this one less personally. It's very difficult to convince students that the internet is not a substitute for research. How many of you agree with this statement? All right, about half. I'm very interested in the work that's coming out of the University of Washington, the Project Information Literacy Research Project. They surveyed over 10,000 undergraduates across the United States. And when they surveyed those undergraduates about how they did library research, they found out a few really interesting things. One of them is that students will go to the same few sources over and over again when they have a research assignment. What are they? Any guesses from the group? Oh, I heard Google. Google's number one. But I go to Google every day too. What else? Wikipedia, yes. I don't know if you use it. The third one is family. And the fourth are friends. So when confronted with research, our students use Google, Wikipedia, family, and friends. That's what they report. I have some good news though. Students also tell us that if they have had a visit from a librarian, and the librarian showed them something useful, something like JSTOR or EBSCO, they'll just keep using that every time, no matter what the assignment is. So if they've had a visit from a librarian, it becomes Google, Wikipedia, family, friends, JSTOR, EBSCO. That's good news. It can be trained. The Project Information Literacy Research also found this. Students have overwhelming difficulty getting started with research. More than 80% of students said this was the hardest part. And they said it was overwhelming. It wasn't just hard or difficult. They were overwhelmed. And I think we probably all know that, right? Do we recognize this? We've all had students in this place, right? How can we help them? How can we as librarians and their instructors help these poor, overwhelmed students? They're very sad. Well, there's an opportunity for library instruction. And this is a place where distance educators have a way better opportunity than face-to-face classes. Face-to-face classes with a research assignment, when they visit the library, when do they come? They come when it's convenient for the professor, right? When it fits on the syllabus. Maybe when you're at a conference. Send the graduate assistant with your students to the library. It also depends on when the room is available, when the librarian can be there. When the students in a face-to-face class come to the library, they get 30 minutes, 50 minutes, one time. If they're then it's not going to be very useful to them. A method that I like for distance education, and I've done a great deal of research on, is something called the embedded librarian model. In this model, a librarian visits your Blackbird class for maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks. The librarian cannot see grades, but they can interact with students in the discussion boards. The model that I've seen work best at most institutions is to have a librarian in the online class for the first week of that research assignment, when students are overwhelmed selecting a topic. And then to have the librarian come back 3 weeks later, 2 weeks later, when students are kind of really in the weeds, really about to finish the project. This supports the way that we know students work. We know the research cycle is iterative and cyclical. We know that students have a lot of false starts, right? So maybe they pick a topic, and then they pick a different topic, and then they pick a different topic. Or maybe they pick a topic and they start to search. Oh, there's nothing. This is a terrible topic. Maybe they pick a topic, they start to search and read the articles, and they think, I hate this topic. Maybe they pick a topic and they search and they start writing and, oh, I don't know how to cite all these blogs and weird sources I got. Librarians can really support that process if they're present throughout the process. The number one question I hear about this model is from the librarians. How am I going to do that? That sounds like a lot of work. We have a lot of classes. I would suggest setting priorities according to what your institution's mission is. I would suggest prioritizing those classes with a heavy research component. For instructors, this is a great benefit. To have another set of eyes, another trained instructor in the room is very helpful. I was an embedded librarian a few years ago for a family and consumer sciences course. And one of the students, in sharing her topic in the discussion board, had the worst topic I've ever heard in my life. I've been a librarian for 20 years, and it was the worst. And I calmly reacted and gave her some very clear reasons why this wasn't actually a research topic and what she might need to do to change it. And later, the instructor found me in the union and said, oh, thank you. That was such a bad topic, but I've already given her so much negative feedback this year. I was glad you did instead of me. So, you never know. It was very useful to the instructor to have another person there to provide backup and to emphasize the same ideas. Very useful. So, at those times when you cannot provide an embedded librarian, which will not be all the time, you have some options. Tutorials, online tutorials, those can be built and reused. I know that at Interamericana, there's a staff that will help you build them. I might have to rely on you for some help I need. We're not that well staffed at Wyoming. You could also utilize YouTube videos, animated GIFs. Lots of opportunities here to build reusable tools for your students. Embed them in the class. Chat and text are also wonderful opportunities. The embedded librarian model is often asynchronous. Tutorials are asynchronous. Chatting, texting, IM, lets the student know that the librarian is a real person who's really there to help them. Dr. Correa told me this morning that a librarian saved her life on a Sunday night texting. So it's real. The power of this is real. Some innovative instructors and librarians have utilized social media to provide library instruction for their courses as well. And I have not done as much of that, but the folks at Minnesota and Texas have had good luck with Facebook, Twitter. I'm sure someone's using Instagram. I haven't seen it, but I'm guessing. So we have the opportunity to build collections. We have the opportunity to build instruction. I want to talk about taking it a step further because I know you are all already doing collections and instruction for your distance programs. The value of Academic Libraries Report was released a few about what the best academic librarians are doing. And they talked about, librarians provide access to resources. Librarians show us how to use tools. But the best librarians also collaborate with faculty on curriculum, assignment, and assessment design. That's kind of a tall order. What does that look like? Well, I want to ask first, how many of you have a curriculum committee at your institution? Curriculum committee. And keep your hand up if the librarians are represented on the curriculum committee. Very important to include librarians in the curriculum development. They see the whole academic program, the whole enterprise. Librarians know what students need. They see all the students. They see all the instructors. Very valuable. Beyond that, librarians can assist with instructional design. We talked about having a librarian present in your online class or embedding tutorials in your online class. The librarians can help you design that research experiment in Blackboard experience in Blackboard to provide the very best sequence for students. I talked about having an embedded librarian. Embedded information literacy is a little bit different. This involves working with the libraries and an academic department to scaffold information literacy concepts over a student's degree program. So let's imagine a psychology department. A first-year student in psychology needs to take basic courses, and they should probably also learn how to find and use information. A third-year psychology student is taking advanced psychology courses, and they probably need to find and use information, but also evaluate it and cite it according to APA style. A graduate of a psychology program should have all of those skills, should know how to go out and do psychology, and should also understand the scholarly communication and the research community of that field. That's what embedding information literacy into the curriculum looks like. And if you work with librarians to do that, they can help support that every step of the way. And that way, when they work with a junior, they're hearing a whole new set of concepts or reinforcing old concepts rather than kind of that same old library spiel. On a smaller scale, librarians can provide a lot of support for research assignments. Now, librarians, I see you. I won't ask you to raise your hands, but you can nod knowingly. How many of you have ever seen a research assignment that you are just dying to fix? You just want to rewrite it. Oh, I see hands waving. They're not shy. I will tell you, instructors, that librarians see a couple different kinds of research assignments. One is the research assignment that is built from the perspective of that discipline's ivory tower and expects students to know how to do research like a graduate student when it is their second year in college. The second kind of assignment we see that can use a little help is the assignment that is written for the library of 1998. Because things have changed, and not all instructors spend the same amount of time in the library as they used to. So that assignment support, gosh, we all need editors. We all need another set of eyes. Nothing wrong with that. You'll be helping your students. They will have way more success if you incorporate this partnership. Finally, I want to talk about something that's very important to me, and that is providing library support for evidence-based practice. How many of you have programs that utilize evidence-based practice? I see a few. I know that you have a big College of Nursing in Ponce. They might be using it. Evidence-based practice requires a very high level of literature review and searching. It demands only the very best research studies and meta-analyses to inform practice. When a program uses this, they really can't do it without a librarian. I'll tell you a story from Wyoming. Our College of Nursing decided to rewrite their curriculum to be evidence-based, practice-based. I said based a lot. When they did that, they brought in the health sciences librarian to help them build that new curriculum because they knew they needed her to support it. They paid for me, the distance librarian, and for the health sciences librarian to do all the evidence-based practice training with their department. They wrote us into the curriculum, into their online courses. Part of why I'm telling you this today is that it's on my mind. Our health sciences librarian announced her retirement last month. We have a hiring freeze and a budget crisis at Wyoming. So it's very unclear whether any positions will be filled right now. The nurses freaked out when she retired. They called my dean, they called their dean, they called the provost. And the nursing professor said, you gotta hire a health sciences librarian. You gotta do this. We cannot offer our curriculum without this librarian. Well, what an amazing partnership that is. And as a librarian, I said, phew, maybe this will work. Maybe we can hire someone. And we are hiring someone. So, anybody interested in moving to snowy Wyoming, talk to me afterwards. If you like skiing, snowshoeing. Okay, that's been a lot of me talking. I want to take a break for reflection, partly because I know that many of you are thinking in Spanish and I'm talking in English. So take a minute and answer these two questions on the paper at your stations. What has caught your attention so far? And how might you apply what we've discussed to your own practice? So what's been interesting so far? How might you apply what we've talked about? I'm going to give you a few minutes. I hate to interrupt what I can tell is really good conversation. But we have a little bit more to talk about this morning. Thank you all for thinking about this. I can't wait to hear what you've come up with. I'm going to be catching everyone in the hallway. So we've talked about some opportunities for collections, opportunities for librarians doing instruction, opportunities to build librarians into your curriculum. We need to go a little further. We cannot do business as usual once we've built our program. That will not work long term. Anyone who's worked in distance education in the past 10 years knows that's true. Things change wildly. Anyone who's worked in libraries in the past 10 years knows that's true. The technology keeps changing. Maybe today it's Blackboard, maybe tomorrow it's Canvas, maybe the next day it's Blackboard again, right? Maybe today it's one library catalog, maybe the next day it's different. When we keep our shared beliefs in mind, when we remember our commitment to student learning, our commitment to quality distance education, when we remember the value of libraries and how important it is to have access to information, we know that we can't sit on our heels. We have to keep getting better. To do that, of course, we're going to have to do some assessment of our programs and our partnerships. And that can be hard work. I think assessment is another area where distance educators have a much easier time assessing the impact of libraries. Part of that is because your learning management system collects a ton of data for you. You don't have to go out and collect data to find out if your students are using the librarian. You can see how many times they asked questions in the discussion board. You can easily see how many times they clicked the link to read the article, or how many times they watched the video. It's right there. That information is available. Some other information that I think is very powerful that's already being collected is your registrar data. Many libraries now are working closely with academic programs and with their central institutional data collecting to determine how library instruction and library resources impact student learning. Particularly, they tie it to the GPA and to retention rates. And just Tuesday afternoon, the Association of College and Research Libraries released a new report about this. So I was busily reading it on the plane, and I thought, oh, I hope that this new report agrees with what I'm going to tell everybody Friday. In good news, it did. Over 200 community colleges, and universities participated in this first round of assessment of how library resources and library instruction affect student learning. And I have my notes here because it's brand new. Here's what they learned. Students benefit from library instruction early when they're freshmen. Library use increases student success. It improves the GPA and it improves retention. This is not just a belief, this is research. I love this finding. Collaborative academic programs and services involving the library enhance student learning. When we collaborate, when we form partnerships, students learn more. That's what we're all here to do today. I was so happy with this finding. I whooped on the plane. And finally, information literacy instruction, library instruction, strengthens general education outcomes. Well, I think we have our work cut out for us because students need us to be partners and to keep collaborating and to keep doing it better. On a smaller scale, if you don't want to go make friends with the registrar, but you still want to find out if students are learning anything, a lot of online courses do a little test of information literacy skills before the librarian comes and after. Did they learn anything? Surveys continue to be a popular way to find out what students think and what they learn. I would caution that our online students are sometimes over-surveyed and they have survey fatigue. So I would deploy this technique with caution. Use the data collected in the LMS first. Use the data collected by your institution first. Another successful way librarians have done assessment of their embedded librarianship in online classes is something called citation analysis. They work with the professor to look at the works cited, at the references in the research projects, and they find out if the students went Google, Wikipedia, family, friends, or if they actually used the resources that the instructor expected and that the librarian taught. If you do this, be prepared to be disappointed. Just a word to the wise on the citation analysis. Students will be students. So those are a lot of opportunities. Curriculum and assessment are kind of over here, big ones. Collections and instruction a little more manageable. But all of them together can build a really impressive impact on student learning. We can really do a lot for our students by working together. I will now share a positive quote from my survey. Students report being surprised and genuinely pleased at the availability of library resources, the ease of use, and the accessibility and helpfulness of the librarians. That's what we all want, right? We want our students to feel cared for, supported, like they have everything they need to complete their assignments, to complete their research, to become excellent students. And this library partnership can really go a long way to supporting our students and enhancing their learning. With that, I would love to take some questions, and I'll provide some contact information. Thank you all. So I know we have to have some questions because I made some points that there might be questions about, or arguments.
I just want to make a comment. Hello, everyone.
Oh, there's a mic right up here.
Hi, thanks everyone. Dorota Ford. I'm the account executive for Inter-America for Blackboard. And I just wanted to kind of mention, I've been with Blackboard for going on 6 years now, and I've had many different roles. And actually one of the roles I had for 2 years was the platform director for Collaborate for Olive International. And I know you guys just increased your license to 50,000 for Collaborate. And actually some of the best case studies that I've seen in my career managing that platform came from library services. How they can leverage the web conferencing and the IM component specifically for some of the use cases mentioned here this morning. Very, very effective as far as communicating with students and having online presence, you know, in a synchronous real-time fashion. So happy to share those with you. And I think that, you know, they can definitely be leveraged here at Inter.
And I am so thankful you're here. My institution has never used Blackboard, and I know about the examples you're talking about.
Yeah.
And they're true for all of the LMSs, but I thought if someone asks me a question about how to do this in Blackboard, I would know how. So,
yeah, well, Inter has already all the tools. Like, this is not a sales pitch of any kind. I'm just saying that, you know, really it's not. It's just that we, you know, sometimes we have the technology there, and, you know, you really don't, you use it, but you don't use it for certain use cases. But actually, library services, as far as student support, has been one that has been very, very effective. Not with the LMS, but with actually our synchronous technology collaborate, which y'all have for the entire institution already. So.
yes, I'm so thankful. User support for Blackboard.
That's all. So, you know, you can get in touch with me through Omira, but I'm happy to share those use cases. I've worked with Cardiff University to build a use case last year that they brought up to their leadership, and you know, it went to RFP and effectively that they've implemented, and library services is a huge component of it. So, actually, library services drove the whole project. Thank you. Great presentation.
Do we have other questions? I'm happy to be challenged on anything that I said. Oh yes, I see my hand.
Hi, I just want to know about the implementation of the embedded librarian. How do you manage that? How many resources do you need? Librarians do you need to get it embedded on these projects?
You know, that's a great question, and it really varies by institution. In my research, the institutions that struggle to do embedded librarianship in the online courses are community colleges. So at a community college, often there are only 1 or 2 or 3 librarians, and then it becomes very challenging. They have to stop doing something else in order to do this. So with a very small staff, it depends on the priorities, certainly. At a larger institution, a 4-year college or a university, I've seen it be very successful in almost every place it's been implemented. I would say that baby steps is a very good approach. Find that one instructor that loves the library and is willing to try things, right? We all have that instructor that you go to with all of your crazy ideas, like, oh, you know what I want to try this year. Find that person and build the embedded librarian into that course first and learn from your mistakes. The first time I did it, I think I said, oh, I'll just be there all semester. Well, then I wanted to go on vacation. I wanted to go to a conference. I didn't want to be a 24-hour on-call librarian, right? So I went from that to really narrow it down to 1 or 2 weeks where students needed me the most. You need to work carefully with your institution to make sure that you're not violating federal laws about student privacy. Make sure that the librarian can't see grades, for example. And you need to work with the instructor about what the expectations are, how many times you will be posting, how available you will be to students. That's very important. Don't make assumptions. The other thing I would say is that for a successful embedded librarian project, it's very important to have a requirement that students interact with the librarian in some way. I worked with an instructor who just kind of built me my own little tab in the course, and I lived there alone. Crickets were chirping. No one came to see me. So it's very important that students have some sort of requirement to interact with the librarian. Or, I've seen this be successful too, students are required to share their topic in the discussion boards, and then the librarian provides feedback, and other students provide feedback. That can be very powerful too. But it does require a little bit of design thinking at the outset. Did that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay. We can talk more too if you have more questions about statistics. Do we have any other questions? Oh yes, I see one in back.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Hector Alvarez from Ponce. I've been teaching online since 1999, more or less. And I just recently finished my BDD in higher education and adult learning online. And what resonated the most with me, thank you for your conference. Your presentation was really, really excellent. What resonated with me the most was availability. Sometimes we forget that some online students, the asynchronous part of online learning and the need for students to get access to information. And that segment that you talked about, the login circle, I believe it still is a major issue, I want to say a problem, because our students sometimes lack the knowledge to of the learning experience to use online research. So if on top of that they don't have they don't get easy access to the information, that makes it even worse. So do you have any thoughts on how we as instructors and librarians can help ease the transition of our students? Most of them, they might be online, but they're not experts. So how can we help them feel more at ease using the internet and not going only to the Wikipedias, although I find Wikipedia sometimes very useful, and depending on the level of research the student is doing. So do you have any thoughts? How can we help the students in that transition?
I do have some thoughts. Regarding the first piece of the login circle of hell, right? Dante forgot the circle of logins. That piece is our job. I don't want to train a student how to use a tool that works poorly. I want to design a tool that works for students. And if the tool doesn't work for students, put the heat on your IT department, put the heat on your because it's still work. So in that case, I would say our job is to advocate for students so that the tools work for them. So that's one side of the argument. The other side of the argument is how do we get the students to be better researchers and comfortable with the internet? And I think that's cultural. I think we need to create a culture of research-mindedness. We need to invite students to join us as scholars, as researchers, as critical thinkers, and we'll cultivate that kind of environment and culture. That is not teaching a tool. That's not saying, this is how you do a search in EBSCOhost. That is saying, I'm interested in the questions you're asking. I'm interested in what you will learn about those questions. I want to help you find the answers, wherever those are. I want to help you evaluate the answers and contextualize them. That's harder work. It is much easier for me to sit up here with a laser pointer and say, okay, now click here, this is how you look at your search. It's a lot more challenging to invite students to be part of the community of scholars, but I think it's more rewarding for them.
Good morning. Thank you. Thank you for your talk. I just have a really quick question, a little bit of follow-up on the resources necessary for an embedded librarian. So your school has approximately how many students and how many librarians do you have?
We have 13,000 students, and we have probably 20 librarians, but only a handful of those are working directly with students. The others are doing